Okay, so we're going to start our first session of the day, and I'm very pleased to from Accor and William Perry from Revenue Matters. Hello, Luke. Good morning.
Good morning, Carl. How are you doing today?
Very good. Thank you very much indeed. Where are you today?
I'm actually not far from Paris, just visiting for the time being.
Excellent. Great. So we have Central European and William. Good morning. I'm afraid to ask you where you are.
I'm actually in East Tennessee today.
Sorry?
East Tennessee.
Oh, wow. Tennessee. Yes. Great. Fantastic. Well, thank you for getting up in the middle of the night. Thank you both very much. Okay, Luke, if I can ask you just to introduce yourself very briefly, and then the same for you, William, and then we'll start exploring the topic.
Sure. Yes. Thank you, Carl. So I'm Luc Gesvret, and I work for Accor, and I'm in charge of all the activation around the guest and the guest experience. So that would be all the elements of digitalization, loyalty, and obviously guest experience for Accor Northern Europe. So that goes from the UK and Ireland all the way to Russia and CIS.
Fantastic. William.
Great. Well, good morning. I'm with Revenue Matters. We are a consulting group in the United States that focuses on revenue management, asset management, advisory services. And I actually had spent almost 7 years in Sub-Saharan Africa on various hotel projects. So it's great to be with you this morning or this afternoon, depending where you are.
Yeah, well, exactly. Fantastic. Thank you both. So the topic for today is how is the booking process transforming in the current climate, and what are guests focusing the most on these days? So I think what we'll do is we'll start, Luke, with you. Tell us a little bit about all Accor and how you see the booking process changing, shall we say, more recently, and what is this phrase traveling companion all about?
Well, in fact, you see, even pre-COVID situation, we very clearly identified that the guest booking pattern and expectation would change dramatically. From where the hotel industry was very transactional in the past, we realized very quickly that customer and clients would want to have a more digitalized and experiential base relationship with hotel operators. And this is what we've created through all. All stands for Accor Live Limitless. And what we've done is we created an ecosystem, which is very much a travel companion, as you mentioned, Carl, where actually customer and clients can be serviced for their hotel needs, food and beverage needs, but as well as their daily needs, whether that being financial services, whether that being insurance, whether that being mobility, for example, whether it's car rental or airlines. They want to have a travel companion, and that's what all will stand for, that can take them through and walk with them every day of their life, not just only holidays or hotel night stay. They want to be taken care of and serviced in every aspect of their daily life. And that's what all will stand for.
Okay, and having done all that, how long ago did Accor launch all then?
We launched all 2 years ago, and actually today, the fact that all is alive, it's actually helped us and our hotels and our owners, our partners, through this COVID situation, because we already had all that digitalization and additional services that are very much required today. I mean, customers today, they are saying 3 things. They want digitalization, they want reassurance, and they want flexibility. And we find this through the booking pattern and the rate, of course, that we provide to them.
And how have you seen those patterns change? I'm almost going to ask you the last 12 months, but I guess it should be since you actually went with all. How have you seen the booking patterns for your customers change?
So first of all, in their booking behavior, we see that they are using different services, not only the night stay. So they're actually using other services, and that's really strong element. They're looking very much for reassurance. Reassurance and flexibility. So reassurance, they want to make sure that we have all the safety protocols and all the insurance matters in place in the hotels pre, during, and post-stay. They want to be taken care of, and they want to be accompanied throughout the stays. And on the flexibility, we've seen that the rates that we are proposing and the packages that we are proposing, they really want to have this reassurance that they can be canceling or modifying the way they want. Because today, with the uncertainty that we have to go through, we have to provide them the reassurance and flexibility.
Great, thank you. William, looking from your side, I imagine in a consulting environment or advisory, you see what you might call the good, the bad, and the ugly across the board. Is there a different pattern today between leisure and corporate business, especially when you look at things like Accor All?
Yeah, so I think the first thing that you're going to see, especially for our friends that are not in the United States, one of the things that we've seen, and I do have clients in Canada, for example, where everything is still locked down in Canada. One of the things I think that we're going to see overseas is going to be similar to the United States. The biggest change in booking patterns have been people are not making reservations weeks or months in advance. Most of our business is coming within a 7 to 14 day period prior to guests arriving from that perspective. One of the things in the United States, again, post-COVID, that we've not seen is that corporate traveler is starting to warm up a little bit, but they're not fully back in the marketplace yet. And we still haven't seen group or major group business return to the market yet. So I think that's the biggest, I think right now in today's environment, I do think if you think of the pendulum swinging one way, I don't think it's going to go back to where it was pre-COVID, but somewhere in between. So lots of, and again, as Luke said, lots of short-term flexibility, I think, is going to be the key moving forward in our environments.
Do you see those patterns for the short term continuing both in corporate and in leisure business?
I think it's a little too early to see where that's going to settle at. I know we're just now, for example, in many markets, starting to bring advanced purchase rates back online. We had, most hotels during COVID, because everyone would book in advance and the non-refundable for leisure travelers, we had taken those offline for a long time. And I think we're starting to bring those back. So it's hard to say yet, in my opinion, Carl. It's hard to see.
Okay. We've seen since COVID came in, or since the pandemic came in, and it's sweeping across the world in different waves, in many different ways, different pricing models coming out. In other words, it's not just maybe one room for one night, but flat rates for multiple stays. How have you both seen pricing change, given, William, your background in revenue management? I think Luke's been in revenue management as well. Have you seen any demand for pricing change? Or do you foresee it in any way?
Luke, go ahead. There we go. So I think the biggest thing now that we're seeing is, it's interesting now in my current role, I work a lot more with independent hotels, where most of my career was with the big major brands from that perspective. And now with the independent, in the old days, you used to not be able to do proper revenue management without having a big brand with the big engines behind it. We've seen a big shift in the independent space to people moving to revenue management systems with some of the bigger revenue management names in the US here. So I think that's a big change now, is on the independent side, with independent hotels moving to revenue management models, which means if you use a system, I won't name any names yet, but if you use certain revenue management systems, they're optimizing 3 or 4 times a day. So, so I think that pricing model is changing quite a bit. And that also, because it's coming from the independents, I think it's going to push some of the brands to maybe look at how they're doing their pricing models from that perspective.
I guess I should ask you, William, how do you do revenue management without any history anyway?
Well, it's actually, it's not really that hard. I used to always use the example of, we have 365 days a year that we have to fill, and there's a number of things that we automatically know. In a beach resort, you're going to be sold out on July the 4th or any holiday weekend, whereas that third Sunday in December, you're going to be dead.
Yeah, exactly. Luke, how do you see pricing models? Are you changing anything in all between the segments or in different areas?
So actually, the big change we see lately is that, first of all, people are craving for traveling. People are craving for traveling. All the surveys that we've done, everybody wants to travel again, and they want to enjoy experiences. as William said, we are very much working on domestic and regional flows rather than international flows for now, for sure. As far as the pricing is concerned, what is very interesting is that we obviously have a lot of people who are looking for flexibility and reassurance, as I said before, and best bargain, best price policy. That's not it. We see also there are people who says, I'm going to be spending, I'm going to spoil myself, I want to enjoy. And suddenly we see those added value, high contribution packages coming forward quite strongly, actually. And this is what we are designing at the moment. We want to cater for both, whether it's leisure and business segment, but we want to cater for those both needs. One would be just the accommodation experiences and prices going with it, and the additional value package, because that service most definitely honors to be able to maximize on every day, especially, as William said, on constrained periods during the summertime.
Okay, great. I think, Luc, that takes us into an area that I wanted to go in, which is, I think firstly, pricing is simplifying, and then secondly, packages are becoming more important. Hotels are having to develop other revenue streams, and it sounds like all Accor are bringing in these other things that the traveling companion needs. But also there's everything from hiring the room for the day for an office for somebody who doesn't want to work in their small apartment all day. How many different revenue streams is it good to have is maybe the simple question. How diverse should hotels be getting, and how easy is it to price all those, and important to build them into a package? I think I'll jump to Luc maybe to start with on that one.
So in fact, Accor, the answer is right. You need to diversify. And my answer to this will be limitless and be relevant. Limitless because you have to open up to new streams. And relevant, it has to fit, of course, your client's expectation, needs, and your market. So, for example, in some instance, we're launching in some of the hotels a concept of hotel office. You know, we had the office, we have the home office, but home office and office have their limitations. Now, the flexibility and the hybrid situation on that is the hotel office. So we're launching this, and that's a huge opportunity for owners to maximize their square meters. Because we all know that we have space in hotels that might be used at certain period of the day, but they are underused at certain period of the rest of the day. So definitely there is an opportunity here. Suddenly, I think with the COVID pandemic, we also saw new opportunities, and we need to maximize on those. We always had great restaurants and great food and beverage facilities, but they were very much to be used in-house. Nowadays, with digitalization, they have different solutions coming to us, from doing a dark kitchen, from actually delivering your F&B to individuals in their home. And that's what Travel Companion is about. Not only do we want to animate customers who would want to come and visit the destination, but suddenly with loyalty program like All, for example, and this ecosystem, you can activate and animate your local base in order for those new revenue streams to work out.
Fantastic. William, how does that packaging and the price increase from a basic room then slot into what I would call the revenue management matrix, and being able to sell, you know, it's almost the nadir of revenue management, total revenue management. But all these different strands, and going to Luc's point about Limitless, how does this slot into a plan for a hotelier to promote these to their customers?
So one of the interesting things about working in the independent space is there's a big shift with many of the CRSs that are on the market today to be able to do add-ons as you're closing out the reservation. And I think when we started really working in that space, one of the things we used to do is just, oh, you could buy a bottle of champagne or something, you know, silly like that and add on. So pretty basic stuff. but we've started really getting creative and expanding that to now add retail items, especially in the boutique space where you have merchandise, etc. To maybe look at local park passes or different local attraction passes to be able to add into the overall package. And the nice thing about the way CRSs are being designed today is that, you know, before you complete your transaction, all of this menu of different items come up that can kind of further enhance your experience from that perspective. So in terms of, and we're seeing quite a bit of extra ancillary revenue being driven out of these particular products that we're able to provide for our guests.
How do you think that's going to affect the inevitable, you know, competitive set revenue management benchmarking situation in the, you know, when hoteliers start to measure how they're doing against each other?
Yeah, I think it does make it a little bit more challenging because, you know, especially when you're looking at with that packaging component of it, things getting thrown into the various areas. I mean, that's where we look to guys like you, Carl, with you know, with uniform system of accounts to be able to tell us where to put the apples and the oranges, so we know how to have good comparisons.
I was not expecting a USALI question to come from a revenue manager. William, thank you very much for that.
I just completed my certification, so I'm all set.
Well done. Congratulations. Fantastic. I guess I should ask you both, sort of, what's the most unusual extra thing that you've seen thrown into a hotel package that you've seen then, that you've used, a little smiles come up on your face when you say, I did not expect somebody to throw it. I guess there's always the office thing, but I think that's been going for a little while now. What's the most unusual thing either of you seen thrown in?
I guess if we talk about unusual, I don't think it's actually part of the vocabulary of hoteliers, because we are always prepared for the unexpected. But obviously, I have to say that suddenly some of the requirements in food and beverage sometimes for celebrations are quite surprising. So suddenly when they're asking you to do a typical French dish in the middle of Central Europe with the product which actually don't exist there. So, I mean, it's always interesting that you have to adapt and still try to provide for this. Yeah. But I think it's the most unusual element that's coming through now. I wouldn't say it's extra facilities and so on, but something that's coming very, very strong from our clients now, and whether that's leisure and business is the same, is contactless. Yeah. It's contactless in all of their experience. And that is changing the way we actually interact with them, because that means that we have to interact with them digitally from far out from the moment they book. And that's very strong because it's actually impacting in hotel experience. So from Accor digital keys, for example, for your bedroom, or having all your room service, proposal, offer, and delivery done contactless. So contactless doesn't mean no interaction with the team, of course. You know, they still want to have these interactions. They still want to have this experiential with people and warmth, but it has to be contactless. And that will become stronger and stronger in the future.
William, how do you see that? I guess at some point the revenue management would have stopped at the price and somebody buys. How does all this stuff impact in terms of the communication with the guest?
I think it's changing quite a bit. You know, in organization, we've kind of adapted to what we call an integrated, strategic revenue model, where we look at revenue management, marketing, and distribution, because you've really got to have all three of those components to be able to drive top line revenue. So I think, to your point, when you're just competing on price alone, your product becomes a commodity at the end of the day, like eggs and apples. So really, you've got to make sure that it not only, so first it begins with the demand, then we price according to the demand, then now we've got to get the message out through marketing, and then lastly, now with all the billions of distribution channels that exist in the world, you've got to make sure that it's getting into all the pipes so that everybody has access to your product at the end of the day. So all three of those elements are like a three-legged stool, are equally important.
Yeah, this is your Max program, isn't it, that I've seen on the website? Yeah,
correct. That's correct.
I think the hotel industry has moved a long way since we had pricing from Monday through Thursday and then weekend pricing, and that was it. We've actually started listening to our customers finally. It's taken us long enough. Let me ask you both. We talked about what the guests want and about putting it out there. What about the communicate? And you've talked, Luke, about the contactless. What about the communication with the guest after the booking and when they're coming to the hotel, and maybe after they've left. How has that moved on in terms of the booking experience and process, certainly in the last 12 months?
So this is a never-ending evolution. In fact, you know, back in years back, you had a confirmation which was by email, and that was the maximum of conversation that we had with guests, pre and post stay. Today, as I said, digitalization is everywhere, and it's ever increasing the fact that pre, during, and post stay, we need to have a digital interaction with guests at all time. Yep. So not only to reassure them on the fact that they have a booking, but because as soon as they have a booking, they also want to be entertained and to be advised, and they want to be taken into what the destination has to offer. And that's very important, because as hoteliers and as operators, we become really big ambassadors and advisors of the experience they will have in the destination. However, I was on a very interesting presentation not long ago about WeChat and the way it operates in China. And in looking at that presentation, I was thinking, gosh, we have a new universe opening up in front of us. So not only would social media be extremely important and crucial in the conversation, but in the commercialization as well, because in China, they tend to start to book more room through WeChat, a social media, rather than any platform. That's very important. And I think that as a hotelier, this is something that we need to look at very, very seriously. I think in Asia, they have step ahead in terms of usage of all this activation of conversation, which are the social media.
William, what do you think in terms of the communication post the guest booking and all that? What do you see as the crucial areas? Because you talk about revenue management, distribution, but then there's the digital marketing before and after.
I think that's critical. One of the key drivers we've been driving with our properties is to really focus on your CRM, and that CRM and knowing who your customer is. And I've really in the past year been moved heavily by understanding who your customer is, because there are hotels in the portfolio that I work with that absolutely do no OTA, no online travel agency bookings at all, because they know who their customer is. They've got such a great CRM program for the digital outreach. They have a tremendous social media platform with Instagram, etc. And so I've been advocating that you need to know who your customer is, and then you need to go where that customer is to market to them from that perspective. So if you're only competing on price, and you're maybe a big city hotel where sometimes rooms become commodities in some of those markets, and there's nothing wrong with that, then you might be on the OTAs, and you might be marketing through some of those additional channels or the brand.com. But if you're a boutique hotel in rural America or in rural Europe, then you want to make sure you've got the right networks to link up with your customers afterwards.
Exactly. I must say, I mean, other than WhatsApp, I think I must have 4 or 5 other, everything from Telegram to Signal, and if I was in China, as Luke said, WeChat. William, we've just been asked, somebody from the audience has just asked, could you just repeat your 3 crucial legs, or shall we say your 3 crucial segments of your MAX program that you talked about for getting marketing, shall we say?
So it begins with revenue management, understanding your demand and pricing. Then we move to marketing, getting the message out, so marketing. And then finally, distribution. So making sure that price setting and marketing message get out across all distribution channels. So revenue management, marketing, and distribution.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. So, gentlemen, we've got about 6 or 7 minutes left. I'm going to ask you that sort of future question. And we won't replay the recording to check how right you were, give or take. Well, I'm going to say 6 or 12 months from now, because that seems like forever and away. I'm going to ask you the future question in 2 ways, I think. One is how you see maybe the market moving. And we've already discussed this a little bit in terms of, shall we say, the next 12 to 18 months, because who the heck knows, any further ahead than that. And then the other one is, how do you see technology moving in that area? Do you see more technology coming? Is there going to be slightly less and more human, or how is that going to work? Let's start with you, because you must have some plans for Accor or Accor rather to develop. But how do you see the future?
So I'm an optimistic guy, so I see the future very, very, very bright, and I hope that I will be right. But so first of all, on the business side, it's true that what we've learned in the past 18 months is take it one step at a time, and let's not forecast ahead of time, because I will tell us that any forecast can be changed every day anyway. But what we foresee and what we're working on is definitely domestic leisure activation. And that's where we have to be clever, because not only do we want to have this activated, but we need to know that the people actually understand what we have to offer, because they might be discovering destination they already know, if you see what I mean. So there is not this discovery element of going to Asia for the first time. So we need to really have a great experience. So we think individual, domestic, leisure first. Secondly, as Miriam mentioned, we can start to see already some corporate movement in Europe, in Northern Europe. And we see that companies, they need to get back to business and to meet with their clients. So I start to see some activation there, and we see it in the GDS, for example, booking pickup. And then after this, after the summer, and we start to see some groups coming through. They will not be international flows yet, but maybe materialization of domestic and regional business groups. And then eventually, at some point, we'll see some long haul realization, but that's more towards next year, I think. So business-wise, I think we have to cater for the proximity, and this is where we need to really be smart and clever, is to activate proximity destination. As to the second part of your question, if you want me to tackle it now, how do I foresee the future? So first of all, I think, as I mentioned before, we see that our clients are really looking for enhancement in the digitalization of the experience, but not just in-hotel experience, pre, during, and post. I think it's really important as hotelier we understand our clients will not any longer expect us to be good at during the stay. They want us to be good from A to Z. It's the whole journey that we need to address. So in Accor, we built a completely new digital guest journey. But for us, the digitalization is only and can only be used as an enabler to deliver the real experience. There is absolutely no need to digitalize any process if it's to make people feel exactly the way they feel, for example, when they use an airlines or a supermarket digital cashier. That's not the point. The point is for digitalization to be the enabler, the backbone of the experiential. So we need to train the team also to deliver the experiences differently. And this is going to change totally. As I said, contactless from the moment you book to the moment you check out. With interactions, but contactless. For example, we dematerialize all literature in the bedroom, and we have interaction through social media and different platforms in order for you to be able to order your room service in any languages that you want. You can suddenly be in Croatia and order your room service in Chinese and be answered in Chinese because that is your language. And that's really important because customers will be expecting this too. So I think the digitalization of hotel industry, which went very much onto booking platform and how we book, is actually shifting from the total journey. And in the total journey, as I said, our customer will expect us to be there from the start to the end of the journey with them.
Great, that's a great picture. William, a couple of minutes, your thoughts.
So briefly, I agree with what Luke is saying, and what's interesting is that every week I preview new software that's coming out, new applications, new things of that nature. So for me, it's very exciting what's coming down the pike. I'll just leave with my last thought is I recently wrote an article on this, is that I think from an owner, because I've sat on the asset management side for a good part of my career as well. I think for ownership, you need to understand that every single line item on your P&L, every department on that profit and loss statement is going to have technology associated with it. I think that you need to get out and see what's in the marketplace and be aware of what that technology is that's coming, whether you're going to implement it or not, and understand what that cost is and make sure those resources are available for hotels. The worst part of city and asset management, I know when the brands would come in to present their capital budget for the following year, was I always sat in terror, because here's another $200,000 piece of server or software we're going to have to throw in from that perspective. But what got rid of that terror for me is getting much more familiar with the space, because you're a lot of times in an asset management or ownership perspective, you're evaluating and buying software that you're never going to use. You rarely have an idea of what it does, and you don't know if it's effective or not. So get educated on what's out there. So as I said, every single week I do one demo. Even I know it's an hour of my life, but at least I see what's out in the marketplace. I understand the costing and know what to prepare owners for buying in the future.
Great. William, Luke, we finished right on time. Thank you very much, both of you. Really appreciate it. William, thank you for getting up. I mean, what time is it with you? It must be like 4 or 5 in the morning.
No. It's only 6:30. In fact, you probably enjoyed the sunrise out here with me.
Well, yeah, it's right behind you. Great. Yeah, thank you very much indeed, both of you. Much appreciated. Luke, thank you for your time. Very interesting to hear about Accor all. And William, thank you very much for getting up so early. Appreciate that very much. So I think I'm handing back temporarily to Matthew, and before we bring on our next speaker.